Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at basically the Universe 6 stage of the red zone and essentially how you can defeat it. To cut a long story short, it's realistically not, for me it's a very interesting stage comparative to the Goku's one. So the Goku's one kind of gave you big setup time before you took on a very strong version of Hit. This one, the version of Hit that you face is slightly weaker. There's a few more phases before you get up to there. And just in general, things are a little bit less, just a little bit less kind of straightforward. So with this one, there's technically 5 phases, although the one character is 2 phases of 1. So you'll take on Frost first. Nothing too crazy here. He does lock you in place, which can be very irritating. He also lowers attack and defense on Super. But aside from that, there's nothing too major that he does. Then after that, you'll take on Vegeta. Vegeta is a step up in terms of damage, but again, nothing too crazy. He doesn't lock you in place, doesn't really do anything too crazy. You can defense lower him. His defense is very high, so he has quite a high raw defense. Once you manage to lower that a little bit and make it a bit more manageable, then things aren't so bad. Then after that you face Kaba. Kaba has 2 phases. The first phase, not too bad. Then his Fury meter builds up based on the amount of super attacks you've done against him. Once filled, he will transform. It's important to do as many attacks as possible, as quickly as possible, because Kaba will transform regardless once it's full, and he gets full health back. So you don't want to waste too much time trying to actually beat that version of Kaba. If you can beat that version of Kaba, so if you are somehow able to defeat him in one turn, it just skips straight to the Hit fight. So it doesn't really do too much. Obviously, the Super Saiyan 2 Kaba is a little bit more difficult to handle. But I wouldn't say it's anything, again, too crazy. I think, like, for the most part, you'll be able to handle it pretty fine. So, yeah, it's just a step up in terms of numbers. Obviously, ideally, you'd want to not have to deal with that, but, you might have to, so it's okay. Next, your final phase is against Hit. Now, Hit, he builds up his crit based on how many times he's been hit, and he can then crit you. It can do some quite serious damage. Obviously, the crits are probably the worst aspect of any boss fight now. Whenever you encounter a boss that has crit, the big thing that it does, because a lot of people are misunderstanding it, it doesn't work exactly like a crit from your standard, from the player side. It just removes basically the type advantage. So it removes guard to a very large extent, and it places an extra 5% typing advantage. It's not, some people are saying it's the same 1.9 modifier. It's not the case. It removes guard, it strips you of that advantage. It hits you like it's always a type advantage ability, and then applies the 5% on top. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't negate damage reduction or defense. It's not a 1.9 modifier either, so yeah. Either way, anyway, to cut a long story short, it's very difficult to handle. So obviously from that perspective, I completely understand that players may be cautious going into this, and that's why you should probably keep an item, especially if you are taking this on for the first time. Not comfortable with your rotations, it's okay. You may want to definitely look at keeping an item held over for this part of the fight. It will probably help you quite a bit, save you a lot of time, because damage reduction and evasion are actually some of the stronger, they always are some of the stronger defensive mechanisms, but because Hit disables evasion, it's not going to help you. So damage reduction really is the stronger mechanism here, because of 2 reasons. Firstly, damage reduction is not affected by the ability of crit, and secondly, the damage reduction is fundamentally very, very powerful in that it's additive to whatever damage reduction you have. So if your unit has 40% damage reduction and you add another 40%, it becomes 80% in total. So it's purely additive to the already existent damage reduction you have. So it's not a separate instance of damage reduction or anything like that. So obviously that does help quite a bit. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's very, very important to take note that in terms of everything else, I think, for me personally, the fight was not too bad. The length can make it a bit daunting, and the first time you take it on, you might feel like it's a bit strange considering how much longer it is than some of the previous stages, which were maybe 1 or 2 phases of units with incredibly high health. This one, they're not so high up on health. The big fortunate thing is that we can still be quite reliant on the damage output of the tech a la Vegeta, who will do a lot of really good stuff in general. So for me, definitely looking at like which units to take here, Vegeta still reigns supreme. Yes, he is facing a int unit, but at the end of the day, it's just not really a big train smash for him. I think ultimately he really works on a super high fundamental level. So I was very impressed, obviously with Vegeta, as always am. But yeah, realistically, once you get to the hit phase, you should manage to maintain a lot of your tools. Like the previous phases are tough, but they scale up well enough that your team should scale up, and you should be able to retain enough of your tools. You should be able to retain your active skills, your standby skills, all of your abilities like that, to give you a good chance at defeating hit. And that's just my opinion on it. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know. Bye.